So yesterday, Nelissa Smith was released by her team in China. And we talked about it in the video, and it's like, I'm pretty sure a lot of people just did not watch the video because so many comments on the video were complaining about how, oh, but like Nelissa Smith, you said Nelissa Smith was playing really well and she got cut. You don't know anything. It's like, man, people are just dumb. People are really just dumb. But the reality situation is Nelissa Smith got injured. And I don't know how bad the injury is. I think it's just issues with her ankle. But if you guys know anything about these leagues, it's the same in every single league that's not in America. There's import rules. There is an import rule outside of maybe the Azerbaijan men's basketball league this year. I just know a bunch of pros we were looking for just ended up playing in Azerbaijan, and there's like 5 Americans on the floor at the one time. But if you are a player that is not born in the country or the region, in Europe there's a lot of Europeans. There's like a rules with having Europeans on the floor, having non-Europeans in your team. In Ireland, it's like you need 2 Irish players on the floor in the second tier. You need 1 Irish player in the top tier. You can have 2 Europeans and 2 Americans in the top tier. You can have 2 Europeans and 1 American in the second tier. And in the Chinese basketball league, you can have, in the CBA that Nelissa Smith was playing in, you can have 2 non-Chinese players on the floor at all times, and you can only have 1 on the floor in the fourth quarter. So Nelissa Smith was balling. She was hooping, and obviously she got sent home because of injury. But what does this mean for the Fever's offseason? And I think it makes things really, really tricky. I'm just putting it out there. I don't think Satu goes to the Fever. Like, I'm not sure if this video was going to come out before. I think I'll put it out after the Satu video. But the big problem when it comes to Satu is that the Fever don't have that much to offer. They just don't. Like, they can offer her a decent deal, I guess. But like the deal that the Fever can offer Satu is or not offer Satu herself, offer the wings for Satu is like minuscule compared to what the Liberty or the Sky can offer. So unless she specifically just goes, you know what, I'm going to, no matter what, I want to go to the Fever, that's the only chance Satu ends up with the Fever. And I don't think she's going to narrow her option to one team. Because I think she would, if you're asking me what her preference would be, I would assume her preference is number 1 is to go play with the Liberty, go play with Sabrina and play with her sister. And I think number 2 preference would be Indiana. Number 3 preference of teams that have the assets to trade for might be the Chicago Sky. But again, the Sky have way more to trade than the Fever do. The Sky owned the 3 pick in the draft, so, and the 10 pick, so it's tough. It is tough. But Nelissa Smith is just, I think her with dodgy ankles, not being healthy, not being healthy enough to not get cut. She's not really playing. Like, I think as much as anything, she's probably gone to kind of save herself almost for the WNBA season. But I think it's going to be tough to trade her, and the Fever are going to replace Nelissa Smith. The Fever need one of 2 things from their power forward position. They need an elite motor / defense, or they need a spacer. Nelissa Smith's neither. She's genuinely neither. She's like, she can't shoot at all. She's not a good free throw shooter. Like, Nelissa Smith is a back to the basket post player, and a damn good one. But the team doesn't need a back to basket post player. So I don't see a scenario where the Fever don't look to trade Nelissa Smith. Because if the Fever don't, then you've got an asset just sitting on your bench. You've got someone that should be a trade asset just sitting on your bench. You might be saying, oh, but she was a number 2 pick a couple of years ago. She has value. It's not always the case. Like, Awak Coulier was the number 2 pick the year before. She doesn't have that much worth. Like, Maddie Seegers was Was Maddie Seegers the number 2 pick in 2023 WNBA draft? Or was it Suarez? Like, Seegers does have a bit of value, in fairness. No, sorry, it was Diamond Miller. Diamond Miller, everyone thought that the Valkyries were going to be able to take Diamond Miller. And maybe they could have. They just chose to take Ceci's and Delicini. Not that much value in Diamond Miller. Suarez just got cut, who was the 4th pick in that draft. So, like, Nelissa Smith, I don't think there's a chance she's a starter for Indiana next year. She doesn't play good enough defense. She doesn't play a role. She's not a good role player. And the injury makes her harder to trade. And if anything, it means the Fever might have to give up more. It means that for the Fever to make the Satu trade, they might have to give up Nalyssa Smith and multiple first-round picks. I would, if I was the Fever, depending on who's looking likely to get in the draft, I think if you think you can get yourself Aneesa Morrow at the 8th pick in the draft. The problem is that free agency and trades a lot of time happen before the draft. And I would maybe wait till after the draft to look at the Satu type trade. Because if Aneesa Morrow's there, I would much rather, instead of giving up the 8th pick, because you're not going to get Aneesa Morrow with Satu. You're not going to get the 8th pick if you want to get Satu. I would much rather see, because I think the Mystics are in tank mode. I think you could give up Nelissa Smith to just, I think almost straight up Nelissa Smith for Ariel Atkins. I think that is a doable trade. Because, yeah, or have a 3-team trade or something. Even though, yes, the Washington Mystics have so many power forward centers, they're not trying to win. Like, they're not trying to win. They're trying to lose. They fired their coach and GM because their coaches and GM wouldn't tank. So I think an Ariel Atkins is a much more realistic option than a Satu for this team. Or even if, I don't know if it's the greatest trade in the world either. Like, you would have to maybe trade Damaris Dantas plus Nelissa Smith plus the 2026 or 2027 first plus a first for Ariel Atkins and Steph Dolson. Like, it gives you a lineup of, yes, Steph Dolson's coming off the bench, but it gives you then a lineup of Aneesa Morrow, Kelsey Mitchell, Ariel Atkins, Caitlin Clark, and Aaliyah Boston as your, like, 1 through 5. And then your bench is now Steph Dolson, Katie Lou Samuelson, Grace Berger, and whoever else they pick from free agency, which is a much better lineup, in my opinion, than what they went out with last year. But I would try raid the Washington Mystics before I would like overpay for Satu. Like, I think with the injury to Nelissa Smith, I think to get Satu, it will probably cost Nelissa Smith the number 8th pick, the 2026 first, the 2027 first, and Grace Berger. Like, it might cost something ridiculous like that if, with injuries and how she played last season, if they consider Nelissa Smith a negative asset. But I just do not. I think there's a very slim chance that Nelissa Smith is still with the Fever next year. Like, I genuinely don't think it's gonna happen. But anyway, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Am I right? Am I wrong? But just the more I see things, the more I'm like, Nelissa Smith's value is kind of getting lower and lower. And there's more teams in for Satu that I think can pay more. But I think Nelissa Smith will be traded, but I don't think it'll be in the Satu trade. If there is a Satu trade, she'll obviously be in it. But I think it's like that type of situation where I think the best you can get if you're the Fever is looking for someone like an Ariel Atkins, if we're being honest. But anyway, I'll see you guys.